Well, good day and welcome back. Welcome back to the Secret Solve. This is a program where I take a look at the book, The Secret by Byron Preiss, and I try to figure out what's going on in the images and the pictures. So listen along as we talk about the image number 10. We revisit to the image number 10 because some people think this is in Milwaukee. I actually think it's in Salt Lake City, and I'm going to tell you why today based upon the information in the back of the book that seems to confirm this. So if you want to follow along with me, just go to the secretsolve.wordpress.com where I have the link image 10 Milwaukee question mark. So in looking at the image, we've identified several things. And I think in the background of this particular image is the Mormon Temple Square. It's got two spired buildings on the top. Looks to me like there could easily be, if you go down to the street level, get at the appropriate angle, you can align the two temples to match that. And moving forward down, just to prove that it's Utah, take a look at this detail around the collar. That is the shape of Utah, the shape of Utah, the shape of Utah, all around the collar. So there's your clue for the state. Then you've got this rebus that people are saying it's a millstone, a walking stick, and a key, totally leaving out the primrose path, the seer stone, the steer stone, the bird in the hand. So if I want to this explain what these are the tools of the Mormon trade. And then also, if that's a cicada, there's the great cicada story about the Mormons as well. But simply, that's a hand cart wheel. That's the primrose path. The walking stick is simply required by Brigham Young. The key is the key to the kingdom. The wild ball is the seer stone. The bird in hand is better than two in the bush, is again a biblical saying. There's the other seer stone, and then you've got the jewel. You've got the books of Mormon sticking over here in the cape, and you've got this band shell over here, which he is looking at, which is the what do they call that building? This is the tabernacle. I think that might be it. You've got his arms coming out of the sleeves, uh, and so he's also flying above what appears to be some sort of open area. So I've pointed out the state clue, Utah, Utah, Utah. It's around the collar there. Look at the state of Utah. I've got one of those shapes compared to the state. Then look at the two spires and a hazy background. So I've recreated those spires in uh, view of the temple itself. I've recreated that view so that you can see how that could be reconstructed in uh, because you have to take the building. The picture I put on my website has another building in the background. So you actually have to take that building out in order to get to this. So Brigham Young was a religious leader, a settler. He was the second president of the Church of Latter-day Saints. He is considered American Moses. You can read all about him. But the way it relates to the solve is that he organized the Mormon Tabernacle Choir. Also, the first instance is the statue of Brigham Young. He's surrounded by Indians, if you will, on the statue, and he's setting up on this pedestal base, and he's got an arm extended, and he's holding his famous walking stick. So this particular pillar statue used to sit in the middle of the street. At the time of the writing of the book, it's since been moved back and placed more towards the temple and the temple square. The second person is Joseph Smith Jr. He's an American religious leader. At the age of 7, Smith suffered a crippling bone infection, and he had to use crutches for 3 years. Smith said that the angel revealed the location of a buried book made of golden plates, as well as other artifacts, including a breastplate and a set of interpreters composed of 2 seer stones set in a frame, which had been hidden in a hill near his home. So again, you have seer stones, and then you have this a breastplate. The key to the kingdom, he wrote, have not been taken away from us, is a famous quote from Joseph Smith. So books in the cave, the crutch. So there are many elements leading to Salt Lake City, Mormonism, and the founder of Salt Lake Tabernacle. You might notice that the crowbar has that walking stick could also be a crowbar. And there's a figure that was famous for using a crowbar in Salt Lake City. And I'll point who that is out in the after section of today's show. This is the cicada. Then there's the turtle shell of the tabernacle, which maybe that what you thought was the cicada is actually the tabernacle. Then I'm showing you a wheel from an immigrant cart, and the Mormons are famous for using immigrant carts. If you like that as a water wheel, I can show you where power mill that was founded by Mary Fielding Smith, one of the first settlers at Mill Creek in Salt Lake City. I give you a water wheel if you think that's a washer wheel. It doesn't matter. The Primrose Path, and then I'm showing you a relief that's over in a park adjacent to the temple. So if you want to work the verse, it's in the shadow of the gray giant. Okay, the gray giant is the Mormon tabernacle. It's a big gray giant thing, if you will. Find the arm that extends over the slender path. And this is just simply the statue of Brigham Young himself with his arm extended. In summer, you'll often hear a whirring sound. That's the cicada. Cars abound. This Brigham Young statue used to sit in the middle of the street. Although the sign nearby speaks of Indy's native, the natives still speak of him of hard words in 3 volumes. The Text of Mormon. Okay. The story of Joseph Smith. Take twice as many steps as the hour or more from the middle of one branch of the V. Okay. Again, I think that you just need to take the fact that you've got this statue, and you've got this. So the hour in Temple Square, I've not identified completely. The branch of the V, however, and the rhapsodic man's soil is what I believe to be this area that is in front of if you start out at the tabernacle shell building and then go east, you'll get to this Bravenel building, and if you look back towards the Isle of B, it's going to be your Brigham Young statue that was in the middle of the street at the time. And so I think this gets you a opportunity at least to look at this area in front of this, it's basically the Symphony building. So let's look at some things that might help. So Brigham Young, I don't think I need to give you all the information about him, but founder of the LDS Church, etc. He was involved in some politics. There's some migration west. He was the governor of the Utah Territory. And the Mormons are largely responsible for settling. So Joseph Smith, again, is the guy that found the seer stones, the breastplate, and he had this. He was born in Vermont. He was uh, born to Lucy Mack Smith and her husband Joseph Smith Sr., who was a merchant and farmer. He was one of 11 children. I always enjoy it when you can find out Lucy in a puzzle. That's always helpful. Again, we've got his religious aspect. So if you want to look at the robe, if you want to look at that robe and consider that's a singer's robe, then you have the corresponding information that can assist you there. Um, so the next one is Maurice Abravanel. And Maurice Abravanel is an American classic conductor. He's a Sephardic Jewish family, which was expelled from Spain. So I always like it when we can find a nice one of these Jewish dissidents, if you will. And this guy appears to fit the mold. And so the interesting thing about Abravanel is he was the conductor of the symphony. But in the back of the book, in the section where it has the guy that's conducting, it looks like he might be conducting the Abravanel, or he looks like Arthur Fiedler. But anyway, in the section where the guy's conducting, um, on page 105, you have him in the same position as the Brigham Young statue, holding his stick, if you will. And so the Philharmonic Orc makes passionate overtures to bankers and their wives. Well, unfortunately, Abravanel was married to Lucy. I always like it when I can find a Lucy. Manas Carasso. That's who he married. But before he married her, he was married to Friedel Schaco. And unfortunately, that marriage ended in divorce because conductor Otto Klemperer stole his wife from him, and they went careening around the country, leaving a trail of unpaid bills. Well, maybe he needed to make an overture towards a banker. But anyway, his second wife was this Lucy. And if you look at you got this guy who looks kind of like that. J. Willard Marriott is a famous Mormon. He founded the Marriott Corporation, but he was a member of the LDS Church. He started out by having an A&W root beer franchise, and I swear that I saw a mug of root beer in here somewhere in the back of the book. In fact, that might be what the guy in the U on page 97 is holding, is a mug of root beer. Well, maybe it's not root beer. It's probably the other, but there's a root beer barrel candy in the picture above. That little keg shape is the root beer candy. So I don't know. But he went on to be a prominent hotelier. And in the back of the book, there's an extensive story about the owner of the Holiday Inn hotel franchise. And I'm wondering if I just might have looked up the wrong hotelier when I thought that story was about, in the Dixie Pixie, when I thought that story was about Holiday Inn. It might have been about Marriott. And so maybe I made a mistake and looked up the wrong connection there. But anyway, so he started out with Big Boy restaurants. And also the other thing is he had these hot shops, and they were opening hotels. And then the other thing he did was, what's the food thing? So anyway, he did two different types of food restaurants as well. Big Boy franchises and Roy Rogers restaurants. So again, I like it when I can find somebody that might fit in. So in the back of the book, we're talking about this video game. What story was this? Okay, this might have been the typographical terror section. or it might have been in the typewriter. Oh, the typewriter. Okay, so um, it's the thing about this one is they talk about video games in the back of the book. I don't know if it was what game it actually was, but uh, the Atari was invented in 1971 by Nolan Bushnell and Ted Dabney. And I think that this also would include Pong. But the invention of video games has its roots back to Nolan Bushnell, uh, and he is also the guy that established the Chuck E. Cheese Pizza Time theater chain. And I am so confident that I saw a pizza box in the image on page 97. There is a pizza box and there's a root beer thing right by it. And I always like it when I can put a few things together. I don't know if that's a Mormon Bible sitting there or not. But anyway, the it's interesting to note that Nolan Bushnell was the owner of Chuck E. Cheese and the Pizza Time theater chain. And as much as comics and video as comics, that there has to be a connection here to what Byron and these guys were kind of interested in. But the other thing is Bushnell worked at Lagoon Amusement Park for many years. Uh, and I don't know, Hugh Lagoon, some stuff like that. Um, he also worked as an encyclopedia salesman. And I know for a fact we've got the Britannica building represented. We also have these books that's under the cape. And maybe these books are just under that cape because they're referring to, oh, you need to figure out something about an encyclopedia salesman. There's some mentions in the back of the book. He didn't get hired at Disney. But anyway, so again, you have the birth. Oh, Bally's. He actually has a connection with Bally's as well. I always like it when you can find somebody that has a ball connected to them. Well, anyway, so I think Nolan Bushnell is a critical person in understanding the back of the book. Uh, the other interesting thing is that uh, after he sold Atari, he bought the former mansion of coffee magnate James Folger. Okay, and if you remember, there's a story about the Folgers girl um, and some of that fun stuff that you can look into. But this would also fall into the air smell suite. So anyway, Pete Harmon, also known as Leon Weston Pete Harmon, is an American businessman best known for having struck a deal with Colonel Harland Sanders to open the first KFC franchise, and it was in Salt Lake City. Um, so I think I'm not sure where the bucket is in the back of the book for the chicken. It could be the pool in which the people are hanging out in, but just keep in mind that there's another reference, potential reference to this area, and there's some other famous people in this book that had franchises with them. So Jim McMahon, James Robert McMahon Jr. was a football quarterback. He went to Brigham Young University. I believe number 9, wearing a Bears uniform, is pictured on page 185. Uh, Jim McMahon was sensitive to light, and that's why the little other goofy kid is wearing those shades, and you can't see his eyes. And that's why he's holding his hand over his eyes as well. But anyway, so there's the Jim McMahon connection to Salt Lake. In the back of the book, we are introduced to Betty Naismith Graham. I always like it when I can find a Naismith or a Nesmith. It doesn't matter. They're all the same. Naismiths, Nesmiths, inventors of basketball. Um, So when you get to the typographical terrors on page 188 and 189, you have the mention that you've got these little guys playing with a bottle of whiteout. Okay, so Betty Naismith Graham is actually the inventor of uh, whiteout. Now, many might think that Betty Naismith Graham is related to uh, Billy Graham or Brigham Young or somebody like that. But no, she's her own lady. She was born in Dallas. She was working for somebody, and she was using these IBM typewriters. So this story about Betty Naismith Graham directly translates to the image. You got whiteout, you got an IBM typewriter, right? And it says that it was this time that Graham and her colleagues at the bank began experiencing trouble with the new IBM typewriters. Tired of having to retype entire pages because of one small error, Graham determined to find a more efficient alternative. Her frustration would lead to her becoming one of the most famous women inventors of the 20th century that you've never heard about. So she observed painters decorating the bank windows for the holidays. Rather than remove their mistakes, the painters simply covered any imperfections with an additional layer. The quick-thinking Graham mimicked the technique by using a white, water-based tempera paint to cover her typing errors. Okay, so there you have the exact story of the typographical terrors, right? Well, let's just, it later talks on how the furrows, the industrial parks of Long Island and Northern California and the offices of Poetry Press are favorite habitats of the terrors. Of course they are, because she is the mother of Michael Nesmith of the Monkees. Hey, hey, with the Monkees, we monkey around. We have monkey face boys in St. Louis and other monkeys all around the country. Anyway, hey, hey, we monkey around. So anyway, Graham's Liquid Paper Company grew. By 1967, the company had its own headquarters, a plant. Sales were in excess of $1 million a year. She eventually sold to the Gillette Corporation for $47.5 million in 1979. Hey, hey, we're no longer monkeying around. We're no longer monkeying around now. Okay, so I had a little fun with this, but typographical terrors 188 and 199 is 100% about this Betty Naismith Graham. It's 100%. It's 100% about the invention of whiteout, the typewriter, etc. Not very well disguised by the authors in the back of the book, and maybe they wanted to make it easy. Okay, Bruce Wayne Bastain, not Bruce Wayne as in Batman, but as in Bastain, is an American computer programmer. He co-founded the WordPerfect software company. So if you want the other spin-off on this story about the whiteout, you could go to the invention of the software program WordPerfect. And he was basically he was the choreographer of the marching band at BYU when he came up with this idea. And so there's another one. So the Toll Trolls, let's see. One more. Don Leo Jonathan. So you have all these giants. You have the giant economy size. You have the corporate giants. Well, why not look for a Mormon giant? So this guy's name is Don Leo Jonathan, also known as Don Heaton, and also known as Don Leo Jonathan. He's an American-Canadian professional wrestler, also known as the Mormon Giant. He was the second generation. His father was a wrestler called Brother Jonathan. Brother, could you spare me a dime? Well, maybe. I don't know. Who made his professional wrestling debut after WW2? Well, anyway, all this leads into is the whole idea of Andre the Giant. And in fact, this Jonathan is the only person to ever defeat Andre the Giant. And it's only because Andre got disqualified. So on September 7th, 1972, in a match which was billed as the Battle of the Giants, Jonathan had a rematch against Andre, this time losing by disqualification. He wrestled the WWF. He appeared in the Sylvester Stallone movie Paradise Alley. Jonathan wrestled his final match, teaming with Andre and Roddy Piper to defeat the Shepherders and Buddy Rose in Vancouver on March 10th, 1980. Okay, he was born in Hurricane, Utah. He was a Mormon. I always like it when these guys are in the Navy. He was also referred to as the Salt Lake Rattlesnake. And I don't know, that little detail around the collar, I'm starting to think that might be a snake. I don't know. In the image, it's hard to say. But take a look at take a look at the picture of Don Leo Jonathan. Lester Wire. So in the Toll Trolls, on page 197 in the back of the book, there is a traffic light. It looks to be like a modern traffic light. Perhaps it's electric. Lester Farnsworth Wire was an American police officer and inventor. Well, maybe he was working on Copp's Hill that day. Anyway, he's credited for the invention of the electric traffic light in 1912. He's a native of Salt Lake. He was a detective. He never patented his traffic lights, and by 1960, all the original models had been lost to history. So anyway, he believed the best treatment for their children's illness was prayer and did not seek them treatment for self-quarantine. There's a story about some mumps. He was charged with manslaughter when his 4-year-old Aura and 8-year-old Zelta died of their illnesses. The controversy erupted and Frank was charged with manslaughter for not giving his children treatment. He attended Salt Lake High School, where he was a football star and helped create the first high school men's and women's basketball teams. Well, basketball, Naismith, basketball. Oh, we're leading into where basketball was invented. And Naismith. Oh, maybe some of this stuff has to do with the next story. And this is the transition going from this puzzle to the next one, because that's kind of how they do it. So he was an expert marksman, and Wire was appointed to the Traffic Bureau, the first traffic enforcement unit at the age 24. His chief was B.F. Grant. Grant Park. Ooh, maybe they should have put up a signal there, and that might have been helpful. So in the Toll Trolls, they also have this Y, and they're talking about Rhode Island, and the Y in this is stylistically very similar to the BYU, the Y in BYU, if you will. But I'm not going to harp on that much longer. Speaking of harpsichords, anyway, all right, so there's Lester Wire. Okay, I'm going to check to see if anybody's joined in. Hey, friends, it's just you and me, Jeff. All right, so that's my ideas for how you get to Salt Lake City and why you might want to consider the back of the book and some of the information that's in the back of the book to expand your solve ideas to perhaps include destinations that you might not have currently been thinking of. And now we move to the more sinister portion of the show, where where your host moves into the depravity of the chase and how the people that wrote this book, who worked at National Lampoon magazine, Mann and Kelly, were involved in some debauchery where they put this guy on the cover of National Lampoon magazine with the Bowman. So this is where we get into Ted Bundy. On August of 1974, Ted received a second acceptance from the University of Utah Law School and moved to Salt Lake City. He left his girlfriend Kepler in Seattle. While he called her often, he dated at least a dozen other women. And on September 2nd, because he didn't have a date, he identified a hitchhiker in Idaho. And, well, unfortunately, she had a bad outcome. And this happened in Holiday, Utah. Well, in the back of the book, and when they're in the section talking about Utah, they're talking about the Holiday Inn. Wilcox was walking on a poorly lit main roadway when he parked his car and forced her into the orchard. Oh, okay. All right. So then on October 18th, Melissa Ann Smith, the daughter of a police chief, okay, that was always interesting, disappeared after leaving a pizza parlor. Okay, didn't we just talk about the guy that founded Chuck E. Cheese? Oh, that's right, we did. Her nude body was found in a nearby mountainous area 9 days later. Okay, all right. In the late afternoon of November 8th, Bundy approached an 18-year-old telephone operator. Oh, no. At Fashion Place. Oh, my God. Was the Toronto Ogre is talking about all kinds of fashion places. And, oh, no. He identified himself as Officer Roseland. Everything's coming up roses. Oh, daisies, actually, but who's to quibble? And so, you've got, silver, salt, lime. Anyway, and so if you want the bad side of this, outside the auditorium, investigators found a key that unlocked the handcuffs. Oh, okay. Well, at least they handed you a key. Where's the key? Look at that key. It's on the front of the book. Oh, no. Look at the key. It's on the back of the book. The key to the kingdom. All right. Well, so there's your eerie connection. While in Pocatello, Idaho, 160 miles north, after seeing Lynette, Dawn, he walked along by herself. He lured her into his vehicle before driving her to the Holiday Inn. Oh, I love it that you talked about the Holiday Inn. And then you showed me this guy that was a snake. He disposed of her in the Snake River. Okay. All right. Well, there's where you get into the really, really crazy stuff. But when you realize that Bundy was baptized into the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints on August of 1975, it really becomes a lot worse. Okay, folks, that's the dark side of the chase. The part that we bring on after the politically correct part of the chase to look at the ultimate depravity of these people. So you write all these stories for National Lampoon magazine, and so you have all this backstory on people and their lives and things that happened, and somehow it just works its way into the book The Secret. You've gone too far! All right, folks, that's going to be it for this one. Again, it could be in Milwaukee. Maybe they're right. I like explaining this puzzle using the identifiable Utah shape, adding to that the fact that the back of the book has several inventions from Utah, It has McMahon in it, and it has a couple of others that I can't frankly remember right now that directly relate back to Salt Lake City. Uh, and I wish I could remember which ones they are right now. But in any event, I just thought I'd give you that. So, hope you guys have a great day. If you're joining in today and expect to see me tonight on another channel, I'm probably not going to do those shows anymore. But I got 2 more of these to do, and I hope to wet them out in the next couple of days and then move on to rewriting my book, The Thrill of the Chase. So that people that joined in, thanks for coming. Have a great night. It's almost 4:43. Sober January.